Hello and welcome to Awful Commentary. With me today, I have the most beautiful man, inside and out, that I've ever met. Hello, Steve.
You've not met very many people, have you?
Well, who needs to meet more people once they've met you? Isn't
Does this include uh, internet meetings and such like? Persons that you have met online? Does that
I don't
count
know
as a
because
meeting?
people that you meet online tend to over exaggerate their outer and inner beauty, don't they? And then you meet them in
Right?
real life, and their penis isn't 12 inches like they told you it was.
Ah, damn it!
God.
You sound like you've encountered this problem more times than you are willing to
You can
accurately
possibly
admit.
imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, aside from false projections of oneself on the online realm.
Well, I can. As segues go, one of the big things about meeting people online is you think that somebody's really cool, and they spend a lot of time investing in like flashy pictures and telling you how good their music taste is, and then you meet them in real life, and you go, "This is not as cool as this person sold themselves to be." And I feel like that's a perfect segue into Suicide Squad, which you finally watched just
Yeah.
a couple of months late.
Yeah,
Um,
well, because China is the greatest country in the world, we're not. Well, I was not allowed to watch it at the cinema, um, because
because it wasn't shown.
yeah, because it wasn't allowed, and I tried to buy a copy from what I can only assume was an incredibly reputable small DVD store near where I work, and you will
Okay.
be shocked to find out that the copy that I purchased for the grand sum of £1.20 turned out to be nothing more than a Pirate Bay download of someone that had cammed it in the cinema. So
That's awful.
it was pretty bad. But the box, the artwork on the cover of this DVD sleeve was top notch. Couldn't fault
Well,
them
that
for
is
that.
good news.
I
That is
mean,
also in itself quite a perfect metaphor for Suicide Squad as is. Like the cover and the art is perfect, and then you look inside and it's just decay and poor choices, poor life choices.
regret and bad
Yeah.
choices.
So I remember when I first watched Suicide Squad, I said to you, I want to tell you everything that is wrong with this movie. And you were like, don't you tell me anything. I'm waiting until I see it for myself. So I didn't spoil anything more than you'd already had spoiled for yourself by listening to podcasts or reading reviews or whatever. So now you finally watched it. What did you think?
Well, I did do a reasonably good job of spoiling it for myself beforehand because I knew full well that it was going to be absolutely ages before I got around to watching it. Um, so maybe that actually affected my viewing experience in a positive way.
Okay.
Because beforehand, I was actually really excited to see this movie, even after like the utter disaster of Batman versus Superman. Like I was always pretty hyped for Suicide Squad. It seemed like a little bit more of a I don't know, light-hearted approach than what they'd done before. So I was pretty interested. And so then after all like the reviews came out and kind of it got a bit of a slating from critics and stuff. I was like, oh, I still really want to see it because like even though I know all of these bad things that people are saying, like I still a little piece of my heart wanted it to be good.
You got
So
to hold
kind
out
of
hope.
I was. So I kind of went in for it, like rooting for it not to be bad. So instead of like looking for the things that were bad so I could hate on it later, I went in trying to kind of look for the good things so that I could kind of, so that it could redeem itself in my eyes. And it, it almost did. Or like it didn't redeem itself, but it was just kind of like meh at very
Okay.
average. Like I don't hate it, and I'm like not the same way that I would like furiously post online and be like, haha, Batman versus Superman is shit, which I'll happily admit that I did. But like, I don't have that same uh, anger that I did. It didn't offend me like Batman versus Superman did, but I think that was possibly because I was biased and I was trying to root for it from the beginning because I knew it had already been like knocked down by the critics. It was my underdog story, but instead of kind of fighting to win, it just kind of put up a reasonable fight, but still kind of lost.
It limped on. What was it about Suicide Squad that, well, firstly, that you wanted to enjoy from it, and that that you actually did enjoy when you saw it? Because I think we are probably going to have fairly different views on what we thought was good about the movie.
Yeah. Um, I don't know. I think it was just the marketing and the advertising. Like I liked the colors and the
Sucker,
aesthetic. I know, right?
sucker.
It got me good, but I don't mind. I will readily admit if there's some good advertising, then that's its job. I'll
Well, they
be
did. Yeah, what they did a really good job of was sticking together 3 minutes of good highlight footage and making a trailer. And the trailer seemed to be universally well received. I didn't enjoy it because I don't like Queen. So anytime I see a trailer and Queen's being played, I'm like, oh, for God's sake, it's Queen again. But they did, was it Bohemian Rhapsody, I think, in the trailer, just to like make it seem like this is pop culture, this is epic, it's colourful. Um, and when that was so well received, uh, the movie itself was edited by the trailer company. The trailers were so well received that the actual editing was taken slightly away from the director to a certain degree. And so there is a director's cut of Suicide Squad. There's a trailer company cut of Suicide Squad, and then the one we actually got in the cinema is this weird amalgam of both.
Oh yeah, I think I heard about that actually. I don't know what Queen song it was either. I'm not a big Queen fan either, but I'm sure you're probably right with whatever song that you said it was. But yeah, I just think it looked like a bit more fun, something that was going to be a little bit less serious, and kind of bring some levity and actually not just be like a massive downer of a film like Batman versus Superman was from start to finish. I can't really, honestly, put. Well, I probably can. I was gonna say I can't put my finger on one thing that really stood out to me as bad. I
Okay.
think it was just a collection of everything just being very average. Um, I didn't like the Joker. Um, it felt like what I don't know what was driving the movie forwards. Like
Yeah.
it felt like all of a sudden these guys are doing something, and I'm sat there like an hour in, and I'm like, why? Like there's no backstory. There's no, excuse me. There's no story progression. That's what it is. There's no story progression at all. They're just kind of I don't know, an hour into the film, you're like, this is the main thing they're doing for this movie. And I'm like, okay, I don't really know why, or it's just happening, or it's literally like they did just randomly pick these guys out of prisons and throw them into the streets and get them to do something. I didn't like the one thing that did annoy me the most was all the bloody pop music, or whatever genre of music you want to label it as. What is it? Culturally relevant music. I don't know. I'm sure there's a phrase that you're supposed to use to describe that. But like it was relentless throughout the whole movie. Like as soon as one song finished, another song started. That was probably the most jarring thing for me. And uh, like it was, I just felt like it was the Will Smith show.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head a little bit there. Like the whole movie is going to try and be this cultural symbol, and kind of in a similar way to what Deadpool did with like taking the piss a bit.
Mm.
DC have tried very heavily to mirror what they see as being like cultural reality. I think in that with Batman versus Superman, the whole point was, this is the Batman and Superman for our times. Um, the problem is what they've done is they've I think I've said this to you before. They've made movies seemingly based off of focus groups, and they've gone, okay, what are Marvel doing that sells well? Oh, they're doing A, B, and C. Okay, well then we're going to do a movie where we do A, B, and C. So, for example, oh, the Avengers makes loads of money. Oh, X-Men makes loads of money. People must love group movies, must love team movies. So we're going to make a team movie. Tick. What do people like? Oh, they really liked in Deadpool and Guardians of the Galaxy the use of pop music and other cultural symbols. Oh, well, we'll do that. Tick. What do they like? Oh, well, we've seen that they quite like prominent female characters. Oh, well, we better tick in that. Oh, they want Harley Quinn as well. 2 ticks. Um, and everything about Suicide Squad, it's not organic in the same way that the Avengers is, because with the Avengers you have Iron Man movie, Thor movie, Captain America movie, then you put them all in together in a group, and you've already built up on all of the individual characters. They didn't do that. They just threw everything in together with everything that they thought the audiences wanted, and it's a mess. Like, it's a mess of everything that should sell, but won't, because they don't know what they're doing. They've just jumbled in everything that they think is good. Um, but just because you like chicken and chocolate and tango doesn't mean that all of those things together is going to be delicious. Um, well, maybe it would actually, now that I think about it. But yeah, Suicide Squad is just this strange combination of nothing. Like, they've given us characters that are nothing characters. Um, and I actually have to admit, I'm kind of a little bit partial to this new Joker because it's not a version of the Joker that we've seen for a long time. Like, any time before the 1980s, the Joker was just like a gangster character. He was like a random clown. He was the clown prince of crime. Like, he'd rob banks and he'd do like all the other general supervillainy kind of stuff. And then from the 1980s onwards, he sort of kind of became this psycho terrorist type, um, who wasn't doing crime because he was a criminal. He was doing it as to make a point to society. So it's kind of interesting to see this like gangster style Joker again. I'm not sure they sold out a lot on that as well. Like, to go back to the point about using pop music, um, with Suicide Squad, they tied it in by doing a Rick Ross Skrillex song with the Joker in the video called Purple Lamborghini, but there isn't even the purple Lamborghini in the movie. Joker drives a purple car, but it ain't a Lamborghini. So yeah, they did another. I think it might be Wiz Khalifa or somebody like that. They did another tie-in song for this movie, which normally you only get with James Bond films, but Suicide Squad deserved 2.
Yeah, I don't know whether it was like the reason I didn't like the Joker is maybe it was partly because allegedly so much of his stuff didn't make it into the final cut. Um, but I just felt that it felt a little bit, I don't want to say overacted, but like it felt a little bit false. Like it didn't feel like that the character was uh that this was his character. It felt like somebody trying to be crazy to me. Like it didn't seem he
Yeah,
didn't seem genuine as a character. It seemed like it was somebody trying to play somebody who was weird and wacky. Like I didn't like the mannerisms. It just seemed weird and kind of, like I said, overacted. And maybe that was because the scenes that he were in didn't make sense, or like his integration into the movie was just bad, full stop, which didn't help his character out. I also didn't like the where they tried to rip off the Joker scene from The Dark Knight where they meet the gangsters in the room and he does the whole pencil to the eye thing. I think they quite blatantly ripped that off where Joker appears backstage basically in the same gangster scene. They're out the back in some, I don't know, warehouse butcher shop or something with a load of guys, and then like the Joker walks in his purple suit and kind of makes the kind of slightly homosexual gestures on him and stuff. I was like, oh, this is okay. They're just trying to recreate that scene from the Dark Knight. Like I didn't really appreciate that. So yeah, I don't know. It just didn't really. He didn't do anything for me. He felt a little bit yeah, overacted and just a bit too weird and kooky, and didn't really fit into the rest of the film. Which is kind of like pretty much all the characters except for Will Smith. Like I know a lot of people said, "Oh, it's the Deadshot and Harley Quinn movie," but I didn't really feel that Harley Quinn did much in the movie either. Like, it's pretty. I just felt that it's a Will Smith film, really, but no one really has much backstory at all. Like, I didn't mind their introductions so much because at the beginning, like, I thought it kind of went with the tone that I thought they were gonna do. Like, okay, it's not super serious, so we're kind of getting this, like, almost fourth wall breaky kind of this is just we're gonna give you your character information kind of thing, like straight up. Here's the people, almost a little bit Guardians esque how they introduced everybody. Because like with a slightly kookier film, like that didn't bother me. But then after that, it just like it didn't go anywhere. Like they tried to also add in extra backstory for other people, which was just kind of weak sauce and didn't work and just half-assed and ham-fisted. Like, yeah, they didn't get the story. Story-wise, it was just a bit of a mess.
Yeah, they did a really bad job with sorting out the story. Some homework for you. Uh, Go and watch the animated movie Batman: Assault on Arkham. It's set in the Arkham games universe,
Okay.
but it's an animated, like it's a cartoon. It's like an hour and a half long, and it's a Suicide Squad film. And I think it was them basically testing out: is it possible for us to do a Suicide Squad movie? Um, and it's the same. It's almost exactly the same team. It's Deadshot, Harley Quinn, Captain Boomerang. They used King Shark, I think, instead of Killer Croc, but that was originally how it was going to be anyway. And then they've got Killer Frost, who's like an ice-based villain in there as well. There's a few others. Um, but what they do is it's a really simple movie. It's just the Suicide Squad are assembled. They have to break into Arkham Asylum, and that's it. And they break in, and things go wrong. The Joker gets loose. Batman's after them all. And it's like it's not a great film, but it is so much better than the Suicide Squad movie that it makes you look at it and go, why didn't they just do exactly this film? Why didn't they just do a better version of this one that already exists? Because I was saying this to a friend the other day. Why is Harley Quinn in the Suicide Squad movie? Not like marketing reasons or like not why did they put her in the movie, but in the movie universe, why did Amanda Waller put her on the Suicide Squad? There's no reason. She doesn't have any useful skills. She's not good at anything. She doesn't have like advanced combat techniques. She's not a super genius. All she is a crazy person who likes shooting things and hitting things with hammers. Like, she's a liability. You don't have her on the team, right? But in Assault on Arkham, they're like everyone's like, why are we taking Harley Quinn with her? But the point is that they're breaking into Arkham Asylum, and nobody knows Arkham Asylum like she does. Like, there is a reason for her to be there, and then she's crazy and she does all of this crazy stuff. But there is a point to her. Whereas in this movie, there is no point to her. The only point is everything goes wrong, and basically everything goes wrong because of her. And yeah, Assault on Arkham, like, it's not a great film, but it's a better Suicide Squad movie than Suicide Squad was. And yeah, and it was much simpler, and it's worth checking out if you want to see how they could have done a Suicide Squad film. The only downside is that Deadshot is like the best at everything. He's like the most badass. He beats up everyone. He's like better with a boomerang than Captain Boomerang. He's like all of that kind of shit. It's all right. It's worth a watch, and yeah, just better than the actual movie was.
Yeah. Yeah, so disappointed. I've made my executive decision now that I'm not going to see any more DC movies in the cinema. I'm being bold, Dominic. I'm
That is
being
bold.
bold. I'm gonna
So you're not going to go see Justice
I'm
League?
not. I'm gonna wait until it comes out
Wow.
on DVD or some form of downloadable media. Because, Dominic, I'm going to be
So you're going to watch it
a
illegally?
man of my word, and I feel these movies are not good. So I will not be a sucker and go to the cinema and keep paying them for their mediocrity. I will make a stand.
Well, yeah, I do. I support your feelings on the matter. If I could do the same thing, I would, for
Yeah.
sure. But unfortunately, because I'm doing a master's degree in comic books, I kind of have to go to all of them.
Yeah.
Um, but I understand where you're
And
coming from there.
I'm gonna make a
Uh,
stand, which was gonna segue me into what I was gonna say next, because I was gonna rant about doing stuff, sticking to your
about
word,
segues.
sticking to your word. That was it.
Okay.
But there's no real segue between these two things, apart from the fact that I feel strongly about both of them. So,
Okay.
if
That's the best reason to talk about
right,
them. Continue.
that's what I feel. Oh, my computer's woken up because I punched the desk. But anyway, the other thing that I wanted to rant about, I'm going to quickly ask you a question, which obviously is directly related to what I
Uh-oh.
was going to say. And I want your initial thoughts, unrelated to what you think mine are. Pre-ordering video games, Dominic, do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing? Or do you pre-order games or don't you pre-order games? Pre-ordering games.
Okay. I've only ever pre-ordered one game, and that was Star Wars: The Old Republic, because I pre-ordered the collector's edition, and I was like, if I'm only ever gonna like get the collector's edition for one game, it's gonna be this one because Star Wars: The Old Republic was always like, oh, it's the Knights of the Old Republic series is my favorite. This is gonna be the best game in the history of the world, and it's shit, and I regret it. And it was more money than I should have spent, and it wasn't even a good collector's edition. Um, but with pre-ordering and stuff, I don't have so much of a problem with pre-ordering as much as I have a problem with pre-order bonuses and what are they called? We
Day
spoke
one
about them before.
DLC.
Day one, yeah, day one DLC, and just generally like
Or
season
day
passes.
one patches
Like,
or whatever.
yeah. It's the kind of stuff I don't have a problem with pre-ordering itself. It's the stuff that comes attached with pre-ordering that I normally have issues with.
Yeah, well, I bring it up because I seem to be seeing more often and more frequently, or maybe it's just kind of. I think we're a little bit late, but I still seem to see a lot of things on the internet recently of like, why pre-ordering is bad. Don't pre-order. Pre-ordering is the worst thing. Like, there seems to be a lot of hate towards pre-ordering games, and I don't
Okay.
quite get it myself. Like, if you're the kind of person that is going to be angry if a game isn't as good as you hoped after you've pre-ordered it, then you shouldn't be pre-ordering games. Like, that's one thing put to the side. Like, if you're the kind of person who might get angry, then no, you shouldn't be pre-ordering games. But like,
Yeah.
I don't think that is I don't think it's fair to say that that's the fault of pre-ordering games in general. That's just because, right, like, doesn't mean there's anything wrong with that, but it's just that's obviously your preference. You don't want to be disappointed. But I don't think there's anything wrong with uh, pre-ordering a game before it's released of something that you are confident that you're going to enjoy, and you know that you're the kind of person that if it isn't exactly everything you thought it was going to be, because obviously you're paying for it before you get it, there's like the chance that something could change, then I don't think there's anything wrong with that because you secure a copy for yourself so that you know you have it as soon as it's available. And like, maybe it was more relevant for people that are kind of don't live in a major city, like where we grew up, with some of the major games, you only have small stores that they might only get 10 copies of that game in. And if you've got the entire city or even a small town wanting to buy it, like, pre-ordering is a way to make sure that day one you can get your copy of that game. Otherwise, you'll go in there and it will be sold out. Um, Whereas that's perhaps not so much the case now in big cities. I don't know how. I don't know. I think it's been a while since there's like a game has actually like properly sold out and people have been like running to different stores to try and get a copy because no one has it. I'm sure it still happens for some games, but like I think there is definitely still a place in the world for pre-ordering games. I think it's just the people. I think this kind of topic may have come up again all around like No Man's Sky. How that kind of
Mm.
perhaps wasn't necessarily what everybody thought, and I think that is kind of a special case there. That yeah, perhaps there it wasn't everything that Sony made it out to be. But still, like if you're a person that has pre-ordered it and now you're really angry because you haven't got what you wanted, that's not the fault of pre-ordering games. Like that's you for not understanding A, what kind of person you are, and B, Sony for kind of sprinkling magic sauce on something that wasn't necessarily there. But
I
I
think you're
just
coming at it. You're coming at it from a slightly different viewpoint to the guys. Well, I guess they're coming from the guys who are writing the articles because you're right. Like logistically, there's no negative thing to pre-ordering a game unless you, for example, when we pre-ordered the first Assassin's Creed game and then we went and we got it and it was shit, and then we looked like fools for pre-ordering it in the first place. But the problem isn't with the act of pre-ordering. The problem was with the culture that pre-ordering has created. It's this kind of
yeah
what we were saying about day one DLC sort of thing. It's like now the benefits of pre-ordering are so ridiculously high that there is no need for a game to deliver when it is first released because
yeah
because they can always patch it later. Companies are more interested in pre-orders because the more pre-orders they have, the less work, like the less finished it needs to be. Because when people get the pre-orders, well, when the reviews come out and they're like, "Oh shit, there's 20,000 bugs in this," it doesn't matter. They've pre-ordered, and they won't
yeah
know that there were these faults or issues with the game. They won't know, for example, with say Assassin's Creed, was it Assassin's Creed Unity, the one set in France,
no idea
where where like your head was invisible and you could see the eyes and it was like some sort of horrible skeletal monster. But because so many people pre-ordered that game, it didn't matter to Ubisoft sales wise that all of this stuff was happening because they'd already got it. And the reviews don't matter because as long as you have enough pre-orders, because you can
yeah
patch all of that stuff later. Like again with No Man's Sky, I imagine it had so many pre-orders that when it came out, the initial reviews didn't hurt it, didn't hurt its sales that much. They probably found they had like a massive rate of return of like say the number of their games being traded in was ridiculously high, and
yeah
maybe after the first week their sales went down. But as long as you have that pre-order bonus there, then you know it doesn't matter if your game is as good as you say it is when it first hits, because you can always turn around and go, oh, we know that sometimes the elephants fall from the sky, but we'll patch that later, don't worry. Like, keep playing the game now in its glitchier form, and we'll sort that out later when we have a chance. And that's the kind of this culture that's been developed with patches, with future DLC, and pre-ordering is kind of an element of that. That it's a luxury for the companies, but because we've given them that luxury, like they can do whatever they want.
Yeah, that is very true. That is actually that's a very good point that I hadn't thought about before. Is yeah, that kind of how it could be abused by certain developers. But then again, like an answer to that would be like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Like if you do
Yeah.
pre-order an Assassin's Creed game and you get it and it's a buggy mess, then fucking don't buy the next one. Like
Well,
don't
this is like
pre-order.
this ties
But
back.
people
This
don't
ties
do
back.
that. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they
You're
don't
right.
have the
It ties
balls
back.
to be like, no, I won't.
Yeah, yeah. It ties back exactly into what we were just saying about Suicide Squad, which was everybody looked at it and thought this looks like it's going to be great. we went into the cinema and it was not great. But then they've turned around and gone, oh, but we'll release the extended version on DVD, so you'll get how it was supposed to be later. And it was
Yeah,
exactly the same with Batman vs
yeah,
Superman,
exactly the same thing.
because they don't have to deliver, because people are gonna go and see it. The same like with the next, say with the next Assassin's Creed game, it doesn't have to be great because they know people are going to pre-order it, people are going to buy it, and they can sort any messes out later. So yeah, I the thing that always annoys me
And
with
that's the
pre-orders,
reason I will
especially
not buy the special edition of Batman vs Superman. I will not buy the
yeah,
special
yeah,
edition or the extended Uber Director Mega Cut because they
yeah,
already had my money when I watched it in the cinema.
they sure did. But the biggest culprit, I think, of pre-order stuff is Steam, um, because Steam does that thing where it's like, oh well, if you pre-order, then you can download it a couple of days before, and so often you'll have pre-order bonuses that quite majorly influence the game if you haven't pre-ordered, and that you can't get for like several months afterwards, and that's fine. Like it adds an incentive for you to pre-order, but so much more stuff is locked behind extra pound signs, extra dollar signs now, that like you can't get the full game unless you're pre-ordering the ultimate edition. Like you don't get the same game you would have got 10 years ago because they can lock it.
Yeah. Yeah, that kind of stuff is lame and does kind of suck. And like, I don't know, quickly to touch on season passes, like I don't know much. Like the only season pass that I think I've ever bought is the one for Fallout 4. And like
Yeah,
there are a lot of people moaning about that because uh a lot of what was the DLC that came with the season, or just the DLC in general for Fallout, was extra content for the building elements of the game and not actual quest mods, or sorry, quest DLC. But again, like it's the same point as pre-ordering the game. Like if you're going in to buy the season pass, then you should you should know what you're getting yourself in for. Like you're giving somebody your money on faith, and
yeah,
you have to be prepared for somebody to either abuse that or break that. And I was happy to part with my discounted price for the season pass because I think I got it with the pre-order. So I got like I think I paid, I don't know, 25 or 35 pounds for it instead of 40. Maybe I paid 30 instead of 40 or something, which they then later bumped up to 50 like a month after release or something. So
mm,
like it was initially discounted if you pre-ordered, and then when it was released it went up to the standard price, and then a week or a month later they upped the price. I think it was like a month later they upped the price again because, well, I don't know, they can do whatever they want. um so I got it for the cheapest price, and like you're giving them your money in the hopes that you get what you want. Like there are no guarantees. Like if you're doing that and you don't get what you want, you shouldn't get too angry because you're taking a risk. Like Bethesda didn't promise you, we're gonna give you 7 quest mods in this DLC. Here you go. Like if they had said that and they gave you 3 and 4 like item add-ons, then yeah, sure, be pissed. But as far as I know, like they didn't. They didn't give any information at all,
yeah.
and
Well,
they
I
were
think
doing
that's
it
yeah,
on
that's part
faith.
of
But like,
yeah,
I was happy to do it because I, from the experiences I've had prior with Bethesda games and enjoyed the DLC that they've done in the past, I was happy to take that calculated risk that I would enjoy the content that they gave me. And kind of, yeah, I would have possibly enjoyed more quest mods because I haven't used any of the Contraptions DLC. But for the discounted price that I paid when I bought it at the beginning, to get the 3 quest related DLCs that I have, I'm more than happy with the price that that I paid for it. And I think again, like people get a little too entitled when they give their money away, knowing full well that they are taking a risk. Like Bethesda doesn't owe them anything because they didn't specify, like, we're going to give you X, Y, and Z, which, like, it is cheeky for perhaps for somebody to say, hey, give us your money, and you don't know what you're going to get. But you kind of, if any random company did that, no one's going to give them their money. The only reason why people are willing to give Bethesda their money in a situation where they don't know what they're going to get is the reputation that Bethesda have earned through putting out games that people have enjoyed in the past. Like, if there was a game that I'd never played before, and there's like, oh, here's a season pass for £30, but not going to tell you what you're going to get, of course, I am never going to buy that. But if it's a game that I've played the previous installment before, which I know had good DLC, and I've also played other games by that company that have had good DLC, I'm going to be thinking, all right, there's probably a chance at some point that I'm going to want to buy this DLC. If I can get all three of them, or if I can get multiple ones now for a discounted price, sure, I'll take that risk. I'll take that risk any day. So, I don't know, I think people overreact a little bit to some of these situations.
Well, while we're on the topic of Bethesda and Bethesda generally disappointing everybody,
Bum, 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 bum.
yeah, let's move on to the various news about the mods being released for Fallout and Skyrim and all of the newer console releases, because obviously Xbox One has already got the Fallout 4 mod support. The PS4 still doesn't.
Not yet, but it's coming. Dun, dun,
well,
dun,
so
dun.
they say. Yeah,
it is.
And then at the end of this month, obviously we have the release of Skyrim. I keep wanting to say Skyrim remastered or Skyrim redone, but those themselves are the mods, aren't they? Yeah, the Skyrim Special Edition. Which should also, Bethesda said, will have mod support for Xbox One and for PS4.
It will.
Yeah, I was reading about it earlier on, and it was an interesting situation because even though they've said, you know, you're going to get mod support for PS4 and Xbox One, the mods that will work are really quite limited, and that's for obvious reasons, like allowing things to work on PC is a completely different situation for trying to get them to work on the PS4.
Yeah.
But whereas on the PC you can do literally anything within the realms of the creation kit. Like anything's possible.
Yeah.
On the PS4, they've said that it's going to be a lot more limited to stuff that already exists within the game, if you understand what I mean.
I can explain it for you brilliantly, Dominic, because I was engaged in multiple discussions on the interweb regarding this factor, and apparently...
Of course you were.
If you are not in the know, you may not understand what some of this stuff is. And because I am wonderful and I am in the know, I can enlighten you with my somewhat condescending tone, which I
Well, I'm already condescended, so...
They said that you cannot have any external assets in the mods for the PS4, which basically means you can't add anything new to the game, which includes sound, textures, models, anything that you can think of that isn't already in the game. So no new armors, no new guns, no Captain America shield, no Wolverine claws, no new audio, custom dialogue for quest mods, nothing that uses a script either, because there are a lot of other simple things like, I don't know, you could have a follower mod or a companion, like something that changes how you interact with your companion might run off a script to give extra functionality, which you won't be able to use. So you'll be limited basically to kind of glorified console commands and just, anything that's already in the game, which means you can still get quest mods, like there's no reason why someone couldn't create new quests just using the items already in the game. The only thing is that they wouldn't be able to have like custom audio, which would be like a little bit disappointing because like some of the best Skyrim quest mods are the ones that kind of are voice acted, which is always like
Yeah.
kind of the standout feature. Um, so like it's better than nothing. It's better than not having mods. Like it's definitely better than there being no mod support because you can, as you said, you could still get uh, unlimited ammo from the beginning or spawn the best power armor in the game as soon as you get out of the vault, or kind of have a box that contains every single item in the game, or make yourself level up really fast, unlimited perks, travel through walls, like God mode, all of these things. You can still hack around with everything like that. But yeah, unfortunately, you can't have like any cool new armor sets or weapons, which is a little bit disappointing. But I
The
think the
thing that
main.
is
Go on, go on.
no, no, go. You go. You go. We'll have
I
to
was
edit all
just
of this out later.
I was just going to say that the reason I think for this is security, Dominic. Security on Sony's end, because I believe they are scared that if they allow you to upload something that's not already in the standard game, it's difficult for them to kind of vet or check any files. So they are scared that someone could potentially upload a mod which has some kind of malicious content hidden inside that could become a security vulnerability for them, given their track record in the past of kind of having a little bit of a dicey time with some security issues. So I'm pretty confident that the reason why this all kicked up in the first place, because Sony was like, nah, we don't want you to mod the game, or we don't want people to be able to upload their own files because they can upload whatever they want, and we've got no way of kind of keeping a track on what's going on. We don't want anybody to do a virus. So I think the best solution Bethesda could come up with was like, well, how about we only let the new stuff that's already in the game? And Sony were like, uh, okay, sure, because then that everything that's already in that game should be fine and checked and cleared and safe and super tight and wonderful. So there should be no problems. So I think the whole no external assets thing is likely down to security concerns on the part of Sony. I don't think this is Bethesda's fault at all.
No, that makes sense. The main problem with it is for me is that the reason I started to play Skyrim on the PC really was to enjoy the benefit of immersion mods. And that's not necessarily to say like specific immersion mods such as Frostfall or what have you. But the mods gave you an element of immersion within the game that you don't get from the regular game. So whether it be that the cold actually makes you cold, or whether it be that there are more than 5 swords in the entire world. The benefit of immersion that those gives you makes the world seem more real. And this is the downside of what Sony have done here, is that the mods that they give you, there's no benefit to the game of them being there. Like with mods on the PC, you could play Skyrim again, and you could play it in a completely different way. Like it's almost an entirely different game to the game that you've played before.
Yeah.
And that's not going to be the case for this now. Like now, the kind of the mods that you were saying about, like it's like GTA. It's like the GTA cheats of just like spawning a tank
Yeah.
and then going on along like a 5-star murder spree because you can. Like the mods that the PS4 are going to allow you to have will be essentially game breaking mods, like
Yeah.
things that you otherwise wouldn't be able to do, but like stuff you only want to do because you're bored in the game. It doesn't redefine what the game is the same way that mods on the PC does. It just allows you to be a bit of a dick.
Yeah, pretty much. I think this will hurt the Skyrim remastered far more than it will Fallout. Because people are already playing Fallout, they're already interested, like they're playing it right now. So they're probably more interested in, like you're saying, dicking around and just trying to screw with the game and be invincible, and like you say, go on murder sprees because they're already playing the game. But like
Mm.
to actually try and bring somebody back to a, I mean, we're just talking about people who've already played it, to a game that they've already played. Like, I don't want to go back to Skyrim to dick around and be invincible. Like that is not enough for me to go back and play it.
Yeah.
But if, as you said, if I could play it again with like 10 times the variance of armor to be found in the world, or something that adds new things for me to discover, yeah, like more swords, more armors, like Frostfall and oh god, the
Hunter
Hunterborn,
Ball?
was it?
Yeah.
That gives me new experiences and ways to play the game. Like if I hadn't already played them as mods, I'd be like, and I somehow knew about those mods, I'd be like, all right, hell yeah, this is definitely something I'm going to kind of go back to because yeah, it does have like the pre-installed graphical enhancements over the original. It's not just the original with mods. But that's gonna probably be enough to make me go, okay, it looks prettier, and I can have a completely, almost completely new and unique experience for it. But if I'm a PS4 player, like shiny new graphics and a bit of fog is not enough to make me go back and play Skyrim. Like, just for me personally, I always kind of like to keep moving forwards, and like I've not loaded Skyrim since I've got Fallout. And like I'm a massive Skyrim fan, possibly more a Skyrim fan than a Fallout fan, but I almost see all the Bethesda things as one franchise. So like
Uh-huh.
I like to stay on top and have the most current, also because I'm a graphics whore as well. But like
You sure are.
I like to stay with the most current thing and invest my time there. So, and the only way that I would go back to Skyrim probably for myself is if I had felt like I've done 300 hours in Fallout, like I've done multiple playthroughs to end game level, seen all the different things, and now kind of like there aren't any mods right now that are kind of radically changing the game, and I might be like, okay, yeah, let's go back to Skyrim. But even then, in that situation, I would probably go to something like The Witcher 3 that I haven't played, or like another new game that's come out that I haven't played yet because obviously so much of my time has been taken up by Fallout. Like, it would need to be something quite substantial to make me go back to Skyrim, even though it's a franchise that like I love and have probably played more than anything else. Like, obviously that's just my personal opinions, but I think it somewhat pertains to the larger scope of kind of trying to make people go back to Skyrim for kind of mediocre mods. Like, I don't think that's gonna be a massive selling point for people. Like, if you're already a PS4 owner and you have never played Skyrim, then obviously yes, but then I'm not really sure why all of a sudden you would now be interested in it, unless you were somehow a PS4 owner and a Fallout player, but had never played Skyrim, and now you're just learning about Skyrim. So okay, yeah, maybe you'll buy the special edition, but like that seems like kind of a niche to me. Like,
Yeah, yeah. There are probably not many players of Fallout who have never heard of Skyrim before.
yeah, or who have never played it before.
Yeah.
Obviously there are new people coming into the franchise all the time, but like I think it's only for those people, predominantly for those people who would go back and play this game. Whereas not having the open, the vast library of mod support, I think is going to harm those players who have played it before, that were thinking about going back because of the mods, but are now perhaps thinking again because it's not going to be what they thought it was. But yeah, it's still better that they've got some sort of mod support because if they didn't have any, I think that would be an absolute disaster
Yeah, it's just a
for
shame
both
that
Bethesda and Sony. Like, If they didn't have
Yeah.
anything, because they made a big point of it being like mods are coming. Like that was Bethesda's big point, and if kind of Sony screw that up for them, like Bethesda have had a pretty terrible track record with Sony as it is, with like all the problems that Skyrim had originally and how things have gone. So if I mean it's still pretty bad, but like if they couldn't get anything, like this would be a pretty big disaster for like Sony and Bethesda. No, through no fault of their own though. Like Bethesda must have just been like sat pacing up and down, sat with their head in their hands or pacing up and down when Sony were like, "Nah, you're not doing mods." They must have been like, "Oh shit!" Like we've made this huge announcement, and like the main selling point for getting people to buy this 5-year-old game is the fact that it's gonna have mods. They must have been like, all right, how we need to do, we need to do something. Or I'd like to think that there was a board meeting somewhere. They were just looking at each other, going, "What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? How are we gonna make this work? Like we need to do something." So I think it's definitely good that they've got something going, but obviously it's definitely far from ideal.
It is far from ideal, yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it all comes together, and also to see how much time and effort is put into rejuvenating the modding community on the PC as well, because the PC modding community for Skyrim has been ongoing and has been huge for years now.
Yeah,
So yeah, it'll be really great to see if the PC one continues, like if it improves, because I doubt you'll just be able to import a mod for the original Skyrim straight into this one. So if they wanted to have Frostfall again, like the modders themselves would have to update everything, I imagine.
yeah.
Um,
I would imagine they would all need to be tweaked slightly and kind of tested for the limitations of the Xbox One or the
mm,
PS4. So yeah, it's not just as simple as copy and pasting a file and uploading it to the Xbox One. So like, yeah, it might kind of give a second wind to the Skyrim modding scene, which is already like ridiculously massive. Actually, just recently there's like, or maybe recently, there's like a complete overhaul. Basically, someone made an entirely new game as a mod within Skyrim. Like it's called
okay.
Enderall. It's called Enderall, and like yeah, it's using obviously it's all created in the creation kit. It's using the game engine, all the assets from the game, and it's a mod for Skyrim, but it's a completely new game.
Okay.
New menus, new story, new stats, new skills, um, completely different.
Oh,
That
that's
just
very interesting.
changes the entire game. Yeah, it's called Enderall.
Okay.
Enderall, Enderal or something. So yeah, which is like a new game inside of Skyrim as a mod, which just goes to show like fully voice acted, like everything. Like just goes to show how far modding can go. Like I don't think something like that could make it to a console. I don't know. Like I don't know exactly. It would probably use like script extenders and extra thingamabobs, which are never going to be available on consoles. But like it just goes to show just how insane modding can be.
Yeah, yeah. The community has has definitely played a big part in the success, and also I imagine one of the reasons why they decided to rejuvenate it in the first place. Without the community, they'd have no idea one way or another if people even really still cared about Skyrim. Um,
True.
so yeah, the ongoing support from the modders has obviously resonated with Bethesda, and I imagine they'll have probably taken a lot of the advice and the work that those creators have done on board when they've come to do the rejuvenated super special mega edition. Because even things like the god Vita rays, like the lighting and stuff like that, will be based off of the work that modders did, because there was a lot of stuff going on there that
Yeah.
was a lot better than what Bethesda were doing, because
Yeah.
people saw what needed to be done. Yeah, and
Yeah. One of the
have
main
had the
things
chance to
in
do
the
it.
trailer for the Skyrim Special Edition is like they have new water textures. And like one of the first mods, or
Oh
like one of
god,
the
you and
most staple
Skyrim water
mods
textures.
for Skyrim is like water textures. So like yeah, it's definitely influenced them a lot. Yeah. Do you have
Right, well,
anything else you want to say about anything in the world, Dominic?
no, you know me, I hate the world. So,
See you
I'm
next
done
time.
talking about it. Yeah. So, let's round this up for today. Thank you for joining us on Awful Commentary, and we hope to see you again soon.
Cheerio.